Good morning everyone. Today I am filming my birth story and I was gonna do a makeup tutorial and then film the birth story separate, but I'm just gonna combine them because today I'm just trying a whole lot of like samples for my brand XO Beauty that I can't really talk about, so I'm just gonna like apply it and just talk you through what happened at my birth of my beautiful baby boy Porter. He is 6 weeks old now. While I'm filming this, he's like 2 days away from being 6 weeks old. By the time you actually watch this, he'll probably be about 7 weeks old, I think. Anyway, so this is just gonna be really chill. Actually, is it chill? I mean, it's a very intense story. Some of you guys have heard sneak peek or read sneak peeks about what has happened from what I've shared on social media so far. I do have some footage from my birth, but I haven't even watched it back. I started to try and watch it back, but to be honest, like, it's kind of like traumatizing for me. So I haven't like edited it, and maybe at a later date I'll pop it in a vlog or something. I was gonna put it in this video, but it's just a lot for me still. So I'm just gonna talk about what happened from what I can remember, and I also have my notes from the hospital. I'm just popping in these earrings, which are so pretty. They're actually from a small business, Francis Ann Designs. Feel free to take a screenshot if you like them and support a small business. They're so cute, I love them. She does heaps of different ones and some really cool colourful ones, but I've just chosen these like soft pinky ones for today because I don't know what kind of makeup we're gonna do. And I washed my hair last night and did not have enough time to blow dry it or anything, so it is a absolute mess and we're just gonna rip it. I'm not going to style my hair. You know, you've got to pick what you want to do sometimes. Porter has definitely been really fussy the last few days, so the sleep has not been ideal, as to be expected with a newborn, you know. Sometimes he surprises us and gives us like 4 hours in a row, and then other times it's like up every hour just for feeding everything, and that's what's been happening. So you'll have to excuse me if I sound a little bit scatterbrained. I definitely am. I definitely recommend, if you're giving birth, to make a little clear file for your babe, and you can put all of your things in here. Like in here I've got my birth plan, all of his, you know, paperwork from when he was born, and I've also got like cards and stuff from family members that are really special. Put in his birth certificate, his IRD number. He's already a friggin' IRD registered person. Crazy, right? So first things first, I had a birth plan, but a lot of it definitely went out the window. There were some things on there that were good for, you know, what had happened. Like I specified, I wanted him to have the vitamin K injection and stuff once he was born, breastfeeding, preferences, skin to skin, all that kind of thing. But we'll get into that a little bit later. I'm just looking for a spool. Honestly, I don't have any clean brushes. Here we go, I've got a disposable one. So basically, let me talk about what had been leading up to everything that happened. I was about 20, maybe 26 or 25 weeks pregnant, and I went for my weekly, I think at that point it was weekly, midwife visit. And at the midwives, they check your pee every single time and also your blood pressure, because they are looking for any changes, any protein in your pee that could be pointing towards like preeclampsia. They are looking for heightened blood pressure for the exact reason that happened to me. All of a sudden in one of my visits, after having a perfectly fine blood pressure the entire time, all of a sudden my blood pressure was really high, and I can't remember exactly what it was. It was like 160 something over something. I can't quite remember the details, to be honest, but it was high. My midwife was like, yeah, okay, it's high, because I said I'd been feeling a little bit funny. I feel a bit funny. I'm a bit nervous to do my blood pressure today. And the reason I said that was because my family has a history of preeclampsia, and I didn't end up with preeclampsia, but that's why I was like extra aware of like how I was feeling, I guess. So yeah, the midwife was like, all good, don't stress out, just try to relax, let's go listen to the baby's heartbeat, and we'll test it again before you go. So we listened to baby's heartbeat and it was perfect, it was fine, he was all good. But yeah, my blood pressure was still high. So she said, all right, you need to go to the hospital and get monitored. So we went to the hospital. I got strapped up to, I forget what it's called, but they were listening to baby, his movements, his heart, my pulse or his pulse. I think it was my pulse. I don't know. They were checking my blood pressure and my pulse as well anyway. And they were trying to figure out what was going to happen. And and basically they were like, cool, yep, your blood pressure is too high. Do you want to stay for monitoring overnight, or do you want to go home and come back another day? I decided to go home and come back another day because I was like, it's just going to stay high because I'm stressed about being in hospital. I wanted to go home and come back another day on a fresh day. So we did that. It was still high. It wasn't as high, but it was still high. They were discussing putting me on blood pressure medication, but obviously, you know, going on that kind of medication is not something to be taken lightly. They wanted to really make sure I needed it, so they were kind of monitoring me. It wasn't something that was like ridiculous that they were like, we need to put you on medication right now, I guess. Like, they were just kind of monitoring me constantly. So I didn't go on blood pressure medication, but then the next Monday, I think it was, because I think this happened on like a Monday or Thursday, and then the next Monday I went back again into the hospital for more monitoring. It was all very full on, and that's when I talked to a doctor, and she came in and basically said, look, you're about, wait, I think I must have been about 36 weeks at this point. She was like, 36 weeks, we're going to get you to next Monday and you're going to get induced. And the reason for that is, yeah, basically I ended up with gestational hypertension, so high blood pressure, and it's something that was out of my control. That's why it happened randomly. It's just something that happens sometimes. The placenta starts doing funny things, and yeah, so my placenta was kind of like failing, I guess. Like, I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but yeah. So I went back again to the hospital for more monitoring on the Thursday. And I was like, okay, like, you know, if it's off the charts today, what's happening? And she was like, we would induce you tomorrow, but we're going to try and get you well, not well over, but past that 37 weeks, because I was 37 weeks on the Friday exactly. So by the time I was getting induced, I was just over 37 weeks, which here in New Zealand, I think is considered full term at 37 weeks. I'm using this foundation that I did a first impression on, guys, the NARS, what is it? Light Reflecting Foundation. Because I've got like a fresh effect tan on today. Oh, I love this foundation though. Go check out the first impression if you want to hear all my thoughts on it and what I think of it compared to like other favorite foundations, because look how beautiful it is. Anyway, so yeah, we were in hospital that day, and that was the day they decided to put me on blood pressure medication. So I'm still on it, and I get monitored for that at my doctor's visit on Thursday, a couple of days from now, while I'm filming this. So anyway, yeah, I ended up on medication for it, which I was not stoked about, but anything to make sure that I stayed safe and baby stayed safe, you know? Like, I just did what the doctors recommended. And I have to say, like, I feel like the care I received from my midwives and from the staff at the, like, maternity ward and everything at the hospital, like, I feel like my care was really good. I felt really well looked after. I felt like everyone really cared about the whole picture. They cared about my health, my baby's health. They were just really proactive and really onto it, so I'm really thankful for that. But yes, they talked to, you know, the big dog doctor in the background, went and made sure, you know, they were happy, and they were happy for me to go home. So I got to go home for my last weekend before heading back into the hospital on the Monday to get induced. And needless to say, this was a very stressful time, and that's why I completely ghosted you guys on YouTube. I had planned to do, you know, more videos and everything before I gave birth to pre-film, so I could edit them, you know, do all that kind of thing after birth, but it just didn't happen because all of a sudden this was all thrown on me. I assumed that I would be 40, 41, 42 weeks pregnant by the time I gave birth, as is common with a lot of first time mums, you know, but no, it was all very rushed in the end. And in between the hospital visits, I was just exceptionally stressed and trying to remain calm, because obviously being stressed is not good for the blood pressure either. So I was just trying to chill and relax and sleep and do all those kind of things. I love how this foundation looks. I think it is so beautiful. I feel like this is too bright. The lighting is very funny today. It's like super dark outside. Anyway, so luckily I'd already packed my hospital bag. I was pretty much good to go. Hamish and I went into the hospital at 6 in the morning on the Monday. My primer is pilling a little bit. Damn it. Went in, did our COVID tests. Oh, by the way, the amount of blood tests and just things that I had to do in this couple of weeks, holy crap. Like, I've literally got like a little scar here. You can't tell now because of the fake tan. I've got a scar on my wrist here from like the drips and things. Like, it's just nuts the amount of needles I had, but I was just looking at the bigger picture. I just want a baby hair safe. So I was like, whatever, it's fine. But if you know me, like, I never used to be very good with needles. these were really rough. That drip one was rough. Let's talk about that. So went into my room at the hospital in the maternity ward. Had a lovely nurse. She put the strip in. It was excruciating, to be honest. And then afterwards she said, yeah, that's like the biggest needle you're ever gonna get this whole experience of giving birth. Even like epidural and all that stuff will not be that bad. It was so painful and it was in a really uncomfortable position. It was so sore for like a whole day, and then I eventually got used to it because I had that thing in my hand like for the whole time until I gave birth. It was really painful. And she said it was such a big needle because if they need to like put blood in or like do anything in a rush, you know, quick access or whatever. Where's some concealer? Here we go. I love this one. This is the new Anastasia Beverly Hills one. I was really impressed with it. Once that was in, we began the induction. So what that involved was this little like pill thing. I can't remember the name of the medication. I think I've got a picture of it, which I'll pop up on the screen if I find it, but gosh, I can't even remember how often I had to take it. They basically like crushed it up and put it in liquid, and then I like squirted it in my mouth and swallowed it. It tastes kind of chalky. It was fine. I feel like it got worse and worse. Like the first time I had it, I was like, oh, that's fine. But like, as I got used to it, I like started to dread it every time, but it was still fine. But like, yeah, I was having that, I think every 4 hours or so. And then they were like, you know, running the scans on my tummy to monitor my baby at the same time, just to check he was not under any stress and, you know, his heart rate and everything and his movements were all good. And he was fine the whole time. He was moving like crazy. He was going all up on one side of me. He was brilliant. And it was a very boring process. Me and Hamish were just chilling in the hospital. Like, I actually sent him home that night because I could tell nothing was happening yet. We did that all day until I think it was like 12 hours of it, or I can't remember, something like that. We stopped at like, no, it must have been longer than that, yeah. I think we stopped at like 10 p.m. Don't take this all, you know, as a fact, because I've honestly mentally blocked out so much of this. But I think we stopped at like 10 o'clock that night or 9 o'clock that night, I can't remember. That night I had some light cramps, but nothing crazy. You know, they were looking for some heavier cramps to indicate that my body was starting to dilate, you know, and go into labor. None of that. The next morning I felt fine. I was like, oh, okay. Like the cramps had gone. We started the process again from like 6 in the morning. Overnight I had to be monitored for my blood pressure and everything, so you know, sleeping was a bit of a struggle, but yeah, we got there. Next day I think we just did the same thing all day. Nothing was really happening and I was not dilating. So that evening the doctor decided that we would put in the, I think it was called a Foley balloon or something. Basically it's a balloon, they insert it into your cervix and then they fill it with water and it dilates your cervix. Ugh. I get emotional thinking about this. Ugh. Honestly, if this is you, like, probably just don't even watch this. You're better off just not knowing what's ahead, because that was traumatizing for me. And I posted about this on my Instagram story, and yeah, a few people had the exact same reaction. Basically the doctor and the midwife were like, it's not that bad, it's fine, like we'll give you some gas, you'll be all good, it'll be over quickly, la 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 la. They straight up lied. Like, I don't know if they lied or if genuinely it's not that bad for a lot of people. You guys tell me if you've had this. Please share your experience with me. I would love to know if I'm alone or not. Like, I know I'm not alone, but I'd love to know if some of you had a good experience, and I'd be actually comforted to know if a lot of you have had a better experience than me, or if, yeah, I don't know. A lot of people though did in my DMs say that they had the same experience as me, which was pain. This was more painful for me probably than the actual birth. The birth was harder. It was mentally, physically draining, but this was more painful. And obviously I wasn't like, I didn't have proper pain relief. I didn't have an epidural or anything. Let's talk about it. Basically, you know, it was kind of like a similar situation as when you get a smear, you know, get your legs up and la la la. They had a look to see if I was dilated, which I don't think I was at all, or maybe I was like a centimeter dilated or something silly like that. It was just nothing. So they told me how to use the gas. I hated the gas. At first I didn't really want it, I just wanted to see how I went, and it was excruciating. It was the worst pain I've ever been in. It was just horrendous. I can't even describe the pain. It was just like the worst cramps of my life mixed with, I don't even know, like I was screaming. Hamish was traumatized. He was trying to be there for me, but you know, he couldn't really do anything to help. I think I didn't even want to like squeeze them or anything. I just wanted to like try and focus. I had the gas. I was huffing that shit. Oh my God, I hated it. It made me feel like when I was like 16 years old, and you know when like you drink too much alcohol or something and you like start getting all like lightheaded and passing out. I felt like that, except in pain. It was just not a nice, I didn't like it. I don't know. Lots of people were like, oh, get the gas, it's so fun, or like it's really good. It did not numb the pain at all. It just distracted me because it made me feel like awful, but it wasn't distracting enough to hide the pain. So yeah, basically I hated that. We got it in, they filled it up. The filling up was horrendous, like so painful. I felt like I was going to pass out from the pain, and I think I did kind of start passing out from the pain afterwards, because afterwards it was just crampy and painful as well. So they gave me some pain relief and a sleeping tablet so I could try to get some sleep that night, because basically they said, you know, day 3 you're like the baby is coming out. So this was the evening of day 2 when they put the balloon in. They knew the baby would be out the next day and they wanted me to have a really good sleep. Yeah, they said baby will be out Wednesday, whether that's vaginally or C-section, I suppose. So yeah, went to sleep, was in so much pain. Hamish stayed that night with me just in case anything happened overnight. To be honest, I was like, oh, he probably could have gone home to like get a really good sleep, but yeah, he stayed with me on the you know, hospital seat thing. I'm actually going to use a little bit of this Macchiato Cheeks Out Fenty Cream bronzer. I'll list down below in the down bar anything I can list. But yeah, lots of the stuff is mine. I'll use it with the Fenty foundation brush. I don't really like this for foundation, but we'll try it with this. So yeah, I went to sleep. Then the next morning, we continued with the medication. I believe the chalky pill liquid situation. And I think by my morning checkup, I'm pretty sure I was more dilated. I wish I wrote more of this down so I could remember, but I assumed I would remember, whereas I don't really remember. Like I just kind of wrote down times of when my next, you know, doses were, so I knew when the nurses were coming back. Anyways, it says here by 8:30 or 9 a.m. they broke my waters. So I can't remember how dilated I was, but it was a bit more dilated, and they broke my waters, and that was a weird feeling. It just felt like I kind of peed myself. It did not hurt whatsoever. I couldn't even feel it. All I felt was a gush of like warm liquid afterwards, and it was really messy. Oh, also one more thing, the night before, like after I had the balloon put in, it's really awkward because you have like a catheter in, and well, not a catheter, is it a catheter? No, I don't think it is it? I can't remember. Anyway, you have tubing coming out of down there and all sorts of stuff, but I actually had a shower before I took the pain relief that they were bringing in and the sleeping pill and everything. I had a really hot shower for a while, and that was dreamy. God, it was painful. I kept having like these random cramps, and oh, I hope I'm not scaring you guys, but honestly, at the time I didn't acknowledge how bad it was, but Hamish knew, because I was literally like like he'd try to talk to me and I was just like blanked out, like I couldn't even speak. I was just trying to be brave and trying to like get through it and mentally just succumb to it and just go, you know, get through it. In hindsight, I'm like, that was fucked up, you know. Anyways, yeah, so they broke my water the next morning, and then basically my midwife came a little bit after that, and oh, I love her so much. She was the best, and she was like, I recommend we get that. Wait, was it her or was it the nurse or the midwife before that? Either way, I loved all of them, but one of the midwives was like, let's get you an epidural, because basically I was like, I want one as soon as I'm allowed one, because the pain from the night before traumatized me. It traumatized Hamish. He was just like, you do you, who gives a shit, like just you need to do what is going to be the most comfortable, because that was effed up. Like he was just like, don't deal with that shit, honestly, man. So I got an epidural quite early. I wasn't really in a lot of pain. I just had some light cramps, like they just felt like my period cramps, so it's just like, this is fine. But we got the epidural, and my anaesthetist, I can't say that word very well, but he was really cool. Got it, but I did have a bit of feeling on one side for a while, so we just waited it out, and then later on that day I was like, nah, it's not working properly on one side, so we just topped it up. The epidural itself was fine. I was so scared to get it, and initially in my birth plan I just wanted to like ride out my early contractions and see how I went, but just because, I don't know, like I was just recommended it because induction kind of forced the labour to come on hard and fast and really painful. So I was a little bit nervous for that, to be honest. So yeah, just committed to the epidural and I do not regret it. It was the best when it was working properly. My cervix dilated a little bit more, but I think at about 2 p.m, like they kept checking it and it hadn't like progressed a whole lot. Like it had progressed, but not a whole lot. And I kind of just dozed. Me and the midwife and Hamish had some good chats during that time, like from the morning till the afternoon. Just adding some more concealer. We had some good chats, like it really helped me take my mind off what was about to happen, and which was helpful for me personally. I also like dozed off, had some naps, like just rested, just chilled, you know, blah blah blah. And I think 2 p.m, I learnt this in hindsight. I think one of the doctors came in and was going to be like, cool, we're gonna go do a cesarean because it's not moving quick enough. I don't know the ins and outs. Some people might be like, oh my god, why was it all so rushed? But it's something to do with the induction, something to do with my pancreas? What? Something to do with my uterus. Well, not uterus. What is it called? Placenta. I'm so tired. What the heck? I hope I haven't been screwing up that word this whole time. Something wrong with my placenta, the blood pressure. Anyway, so it was getting to the point where they were just getting concerned. But they checked me at that like visit and she was like, oh, you've actually dilated quite a bit, which was really exciting to hear. So yeah, that was at like 2:30 or 2 o'clock or something like that. Oh, here we go. I wrote that at 9:30 in the morning. So about 8:30 to 9 my waters were broken, and then from 9:30 in the morning I was 3 or 4 centimeters dilated, and I think I kind of stuck around there for a long time. And then at 2 p.m. I think I was further dilated, and they were like excited that I was like actually gonna be able to do it myself and be able to push Bub out of the downstairs rather than the sunroof. And that's when I stopped writing anything. Let me just chuck on some powder before I go through my notes. So this is the Turn Up the Base by One Size Beauty. I'm just gonna run that over. I'm putting this color around the outside. Why did this eyebrow flatten real well and this one didn't? What the heck? I'm gonna use the shade Fair. That was shade Light. I'm gonna use shade Fair around the center of my face. I really like the way my base looks today. It looks cute. Oh, my camera's flashing. Alright, I've got my hospital notes just here, and it says active pushing commenced on the 25th of May at 8:40. And I was pushing for 2 hours and 40 minutes, but I was in labour for 8 hours and 42 minutes. So 6 hours, 20 minutes or so of, you know, labour, and then 2 hours, 14 minutes of pushing. So I was pushing. It was really hard. It was exhausting. I didn't actually feel pain, so that wasn't part of it. The epidural was amazing. Here in my city, we do a really light dose of epidural. The anaesthetist was like, oh, it's really different here compared to other hospitals he'd worked at. You know, as they do, they go all over the world and, you know, practice at a lot of different hospitals. I think he was from the UK somewhere, which was cool anyway. And he was like, yeah, we do a relatively low dose, and then at the hospital we've got a button. I'm the only one allowed to push it, initiate it. No one else is allowed to push it for me. I have to push it myself to give myself a little top up, which I used that during like the end of kind of the labor part. Before I started pushing, I was like, oh, that's a bit more painful. Like I could still feel stuff, I could still move myself around and everything. So there was some pain, but it was just like, it was fine, especially compared to the night before, you know what I mean? During the actual pushing, I was so exhausted. Like the first like hour or so, like I was going for it. It was fine. My midwife was so happy. She was like, you're doing so well. I mean, she said that the whole time, but you know, I could tell like later on she was like, you're doing amazing, but I could tell something was like a little bit up. And I think the power was just not there. I was so exhausted, probably just from being like in hospital for 3 days. The induction process, I'd been like just waiting around for so long. I was mentally drained, I was physically drained, and it got to the point where at that 2 hour mark or so, the doctor came in and was like, all right, like things aren't progressing as much as they need to be, so we recommend having the episiotomy, is that how you pronounce it, and also using a, what's it called, Kiwi cup, suction cup, to help pull or assist the baby out of the vaginal canal, you know, because, you know, he was like there, I just could not get the rest of that head out. At one point during the pushing, like when I was still doing okay, the midwife was like, do you want to know if he has any hair? I was like, yes, because I just wanted, you know, something to like perk me up. And like I was just excited to like hear anything about my baby, and she was like, he's got so much hair, and I was like, oh my god, that's so crazy. And I was so excited, but yeah, I was just struggling, to be honest. Did not touch the gas again. But I was so exhausted I kept forgetting to press the epidural top up too, so it started hurting a bit more at the end, but it wasn't too bad. I'm just opening a blush. Oh my god, that colour. That is so pretty. Woo. How gorgeous is that? And then another colour. A little bit brighter just on the back. So the doctor came in, sliced me open. That was fine. It didn't actually hurt at all. I was so scared. And they basically got me to push with my contractions, and they would assist him out as well. Now I felt like I don't know what's normal at the end of, you know, active pushing and everything, like how close together people's contractions are. In my head, I felt like my contractions were like 10 minutes apart. They probably weren't. Like I felt like we were all sitting and waiting in between each push, because they were like, you let us know when you're ready to push, you know. I felt like it was so long. In reality, who knows, was it a minute, was it 2, was it 5, was it 10, I'm not sure. But I just felt like it was taking forever, and it was getting to my head. I was like, oh my god, something's wrong. Don't cry. I was just starting to get a bit worried. Honestly, I barely talk about this. Oh, and to be honest, like this is a very simplified version because I've blanked out most of it. Like literally like 2 hours after birth, I could barely remember what had happened. And I think for like the last hour of pushing, my eyes were mostly shut, and definitely by the time they'd done the episiotomy and all that, my eyes were shut. They weren't coming open. The only time I opened my eyes was when they were telling Hamish to sit down. Hamish told me afterwards that he had needed to go to the bathroom literally the entire time, like, but you know, the midwife's like, all right, we're ready to push, and he's like, oh no, I'm just gonna stay. He never once left my side, and he was standing the whole time. He needed to like go to the bathroom, and I think it just got really full on. All of a sudden a lot of people were in the room, which wasn't on my birth plan. I wanted like the least amount of people as possible, but there just needed to be a lot of people to monitor everything that needed to be monitored. There was a lot of people, there was a lot of me screaming because I was just like trying to put every little bit of energy into pushing that baby out. I just wanted him out, and he just wasn't coming out. It says here, the delivery of your baby was assisted by the use of a suction cup on baby's head, kiwi cup, because baby needed a little help being born. During the delivery, okay, this is the next part. He was born at 8:34 p.m. at 37 plus 5 weeks, weighing 3,760 grams. So eventually we got him out, and it was the best feeling ever. I finally opened my eyes when they put him on my chest. I actually didn't realize that he was kind of born until he was on my chest, because I was just like in my own world. Like I was just shutting down, like not in like a unwell way, just in a like my mind was shutting down like in a protective way. It was really, really, really hard. They put him on my chest, and I just felt this warmth. And I looked down and I was like, oh my god, he's so cute. Like that's all I said. We had skin to skin for a little bit, but then they had to take him and put him on the table next to me and give him a little bit of oxygen. And then moving on. During the delivery, a small cut episiotomy was made in the area between your vagina and anus to give baby a little more room to be born. This cut was repaired with dissolvable stitches, so they did that after this part I'm talking about now. It says here that I had a 2nd degree tear, perineal muscles, but not involving the butt. It says here he cried and all that. I can't remember that. I can't find where I read it before. Oh, this is annoying me. Okay, here we go. So he was, then after he was born, yeah, he had the oxygen, and then he basically ended up with a subgaleal hemorrhage. Definitely did not pronounce that correctly. Basically, he had a hemorrhage on the back of his head, where the cup was. So they needed to monitor and make sure that, you know, the bleeding wasn't in his brain or like doing anything crazy. So it was quite a big, like, it looked like a blood blister. So yeah, they took him off to the neonatal unit. I'm gonna prime my eyes with my P. Louise. I love the way this blush looked together, by the way. I love it. I'm gonna use a concealer brush to blend this out. So as per my birth plan, I said that if me and my baby were separated, I wanted Hamish to go with the baby and be there the whole time. So that's exactly what Hamish did. So he went off to the neonatal ward, which is where babies that have complications or premature babies often go to be monitored by the amazing team there. They are incredible. Love them. Oh, I can hear the baby stirring. Hamish is looking after him, needless to say, right now while I film. I gave him a good feed before, but I bet he's hungry again. They basically monitored him in neonatal for that, yeah, the blister. They were making sure he was all good. So he was in a little incubator thing for that first night, and Hamish slept by his side and sent me pictures because I was in the same ward that I gave birth at first, getting stitches, and then after that, after I expressed some colostrum, my midwife helped me do that for Porter. What else happened? I can't remember. I had to move this strip into another hand because this one had moved or something, so I had to get that done again, which was just an absolute pleasure, not horrendous. Anyway, at that point though, I was so tired and I'd already gone through so much pain that I barely flinched by that point. The epidural was starting to wear off a little bit, but I still had a wheelchair, and I was able to go visit my baby and Hamish in the neonatal ward and literally just bawled my eyes out. I was just like, oh, it's so shit that I can't be with him, you know? I had to go back up to the maternity ward and get some rest and everything after I'd visited Porter down there, and Hamish, like I said, stayed with him. And then the next morning the nurses came in, asked me how I was doing, checked my stitches. They were like, oh, you need to pee and you need to do this and you need to do that, and all I wanted to do was go and see my baby downstairs. And it literally said that. It says here, feeling well, no questions around birth of baby Porter, doing well in NICU, very keen to get down and see him, has not been out of bed yet, blah blah blah. Oh, that's one more thing. So obviously after you give birth to your baby, you give birth to the placenta, and they pulled that out. I gave birth to it, they pulled it out, whatever, and it was not looking fresh. It says here, ragged membranes and gritty placenta appearance. Hamish had a look at it and he was like, yeah, that does not look like what we saw on the, what are they called? The neonatal classes or whatever. I'll list the ones that I did down below with a discount code as well. I really enjoyed doing my, you know, it's like, what are they called? Is it, wait, my brain. You know, like the classes, birth classes and baby basic classes and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I'll list them down below. I like doing it online. It was in the peak of COVID and me and Hamish are antisocial anyway, you know, with strangers, so it was like really good for us just to be able to do them in the comfort of our own home, laying in bed, watching them leading up to my birth. Learned a lot, and it actually came in very helpful for what happened to me because they covered all of these things in those classes. The placenta was screwed, so they definitely made the right choice in the induction and getting him out safely before that got continuously worse, if you know what I mean. And if you are, I always get people like, I'm a nurse and, or I'm a midwife and, or I'm a doctor and. If you are and you disagree with anything that happened to me, like, I'm at peace with what happened at this point, so let's just like keep that to yourself, okay? It just says here as well that because I had gestational hypertension and I had an induction because of this, in my next pregnancy, if I have one, because I'm not really keen to do that again, Porter was absolutely worth it, but would I purposefully put myself back in that situation? I'm not too sure. Anyway, it says that I need to tell my midwife blah blah blah, have to take aspirin and calcium during the pregnancy. Anyway, by the next morning I went to visit him and he was able to come out of the little incubator in the neonatal, and he was able to just be in like a little bed, and he was doing really well, recovering from the bleeding and everything. It had not gone deeper or done anything crazy like that they were worried about. It was all good. Sneak peek of the palette I'm using today. He was recovering really well. Me and Hamish were like, oh my god, yay. But I still had to stay in hospital because they were monitoring my blood pressure. And then while that happened, all of a sudden Porter got jaundice, which can happen a lot with babies that you know, have, what's it called, interference, I guess, I don't know, and just like a lot of babies get it. His wasn't like terrible, but it was kind of bad. So he was wrapped up in the, is it called a bilirubin blanket, like all the way around. He had little sunglasses on, so cute. It did make it a little bit stressful to bond with him because he was kind of wrapped up in that, and I felt like I couldn't just pick him up and cuddle him. I definitely got cuddles and skin to skin and everything, but I wanted to have him in my arms 24/7, you know, so that was kind of hard. I was just kind of sitting there watching him a lot. But he was happy as, he was such a chill, calm baby. I was gonna say charm, chill, calm, not right. Anyway, I have no idea what look I'm doing on my eyes right now. I'm literally gonna throw things on, so don't judge. He had to continue to stay in that blanket as well. So I think we were in hospital for like, how many days? I was there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I think we were still there for the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I think. And then I think on Monday we managed to go home. He was looking better. He actually managed to come to our room, or my room, up in the maternity ward for that last night. So it would have been, what, the Sunday night? Is that right? Every day is a blur, honestly. He was in our room for that last night, which was really, really, really rough. It was the first night having him just, you know, with us, and I was stressed because, you know, before that I knew he was in neonatal, and they would look after him and make sure like he was alive. But then all of a sudden it was my responsibility, which obviously is a normal, like, he was meant to be my responsibility from the get-go after giving birth, but with everything that was happening I was just stressed because of his health, you know, like the blister was very much there still, the jaundice was very much there still, and I was just like, ah. Prior to that I was going down to feed him in neonatal overnight and during the day and everything. I mean, all day, every day, Hamish and I were down in the neonatal unit with Porter and looking after him and being with him and watching him. And overnight we were in the maternity ward, and we would go down every, was it 2 hours to feed. So to feed him, like I said, when I had just given birth, my midwife expressed colostrum for me because I was exhausted. Prior to that, before going to hospital, I expressed some at home. I was given the go-ahead to try and get some before he was born because we knew we would need it. And then he also was breastfeeding once he was born. He was really bad at it because, well, I was bad at it too, but he was really bad because he was so tired, because he was brand new, plus jaundice, plus the head injury. He was so tired, so he would literally just fall asleep constantly. So it was such a struggle. Sometimes I couldn't get him to latch, I couldn't get the position right. It was really, really hard. I spent so long crying because all I wanted to do was feed him. And it was really, really, really hard. But thankfully, you know, we were at the hospital and they had donor milk. So basically, either way, even with a successful breastfeed, we were doing top-ups with donor milk. So thank you to everyone that donates breast milk. You guys don't understand how helpful you are being. I mean, I'm sure you do understand, but it's literally just the best. Like, you guys rock. I don't know how long I've been blending this one color. I'm just like talking and getting distracted. He was getting top-ups, whether I was like expressing, because they were getting me to pump too. We were trying to get that supply up because basically he needed more food because of the head injury, because of everything. Like, he was on quite a bit of food compared to like maybe a newborn that would just, you know, come home. That's right, because he was on a drip. I forgot that. He was on a drip from the get-go once he got to the neonatal ward. Because of that, he needed more food. I can't remember how it all worked. They were testing his blood sugars all the time. His blood sugars had to be a certain level before he was deemed okay to go home. He had multiple blood tests for other stuff. I can't remember. It was like gross. Like, I hated the fact that they had to keep pricking his little heel and they'd squeeze it and he would scream, and it was just awful. But yes, so he needed quite a lot of food. So I was pumping, I was on a schedule to try and get my supply up, because at that point I was still only producing colostrum, of course, because the milk hadn't come in yet. But we were still pumping, we were expressing, I was breastfeeding, we were giving him donor milk. It was a whole lot. And because he was so little, we had to cup feed him to try and get him to like get used to that suckling motion. I'll pop on a video on the screen, it's actually so cute. But when he's falling asleep all the time, even cup feeding him just a few ml of milk, it took so long. It was so mentally draining. And of course, when you're feeding a newborn every 2 hours, and that's from the start of the feed, you start and then he takes an hour to feed, then you're feeding him again in an hour. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was a lot. He was napping in between, he was napping during the feeds, like he was sleeping fine. And we had to keep waking him up to feed him because of his health and because of everything that had happened. So it was a whole journey. It was very, very difficult, very hard, very mentally draining. I cried constantly. Hamish and I were both mentally just screwed. You know, like the postpartum health, like mental health nurse came past, like for postnatal depression and all that kind of thing, and I was honestly just like bawling my eyes out. And it got to the point where the nurses actually asked me to like go for a drive. They were like, right, you've got to be back in 2 hours to feed, go for a drive, go get some fresh air, go home for a little bit, just get out of the hospital. You know, neonatal, like there's no windows or anything, there's no fresh air, it's all very like sanitized and everything for the babies, and just the hospital in general, of course. So I just got out of there and that helped, but it was still not good. So yeah, it got to the point where on that Monday, I think it was, we were hoping to get out because I'd been cleared to go home with some pills and everything. You know, they were happy with how I was going. I'm taking a pink. We were hoping that he was, you know, okay to come home. That was after the night that he was with us. The jaundice had calmed down a little bit, but we could still tell he was quite jaundiced. So we were like, shit, is he gonna have to go back down to the neonatal and back in the blanket and stuff? They were like, no, he's still jaundiced, but maybe you can go home. And we were like, oh my God, we waited all day. We had like more blood tests. Actually, I think he was in our room for 2 nights. Was it 2 nights or 3 nights in the end? I can't even remember. 2 nights? I definitely remember there were different nurses. See, this is what I mean, it's all a blur. And it was just a horrible time. But at the same time, every single one of those nurses and midwives that we dealt with were incredible, and they taught us so much. So much stuff that me and Hamish would have been at home like trying to figure out. They taught us, like we learned so much about how to care for him properly and like how to do lots of different things. Like, so for us, we're just so thankful for that. They really are angels. This is the smallest brush in the world. It's gonna take me 8 years to put eyeshadow all over my lid with this. Regardless, whatever day it was, finally the pediatricians came and checked him, and they were like, yep, he's still jaundiced, he's under the danger level, we're happy for you to go home. Hamish was like, are you sure? And I was like, are you sure? But especially Hamish, she was like, are you sure? Like, is this a good idea? They were like, yep, worst case, you come back tomorrow. And because they weren't going to put him in any kind of jaundice treatments in our room regardless, it was no different from being at home. Like at home we didn't have them, like the lights and stuff. In our room at the hospital we didn't have the lights and stuff. She was like, worst case scenario, you just come back, but at least you've had a night at home to kind of be in your own atmosphere and just be with baby or without being in hospital. And so we were like, yep, sweet. So yeah, we went home, and then the midwife came the next day. But let me tell you, that night when we got home, I felt like this wave of relief, like just being at home, seeing my dogs, getting all emo. Literally just seeing the dogs made me feel so much better. And being able to just like, oh God, I'm gonna ruin my makeup. Oh my God, I've only got like 2 cotton buds left. Being able to come home and just feel like I was in my own space, not feel, I don't know, just the atmosphere of the hospital, like not, you know, like the maternity ward's different, but I spent a lot of time there with like my nana, and it's just like not a place I wanted to be long term. You know, I was okay for the first few days, but it was a long time. And that's what screws me up, because we were in the hospital and then we were in neonates, and I saw so many other babies, and I was just like, it's just so messed up what so many people have to go through, you know. Their babies are finally here if something happens and their babies need to be, and like some people's babies are in there for weeks or months, and I'm just like, I couldn't, like, I mean I could if I had to, but my heart hurts for that, you know. One of my really good family friends had her baby, I think 26 weeks, and his picture was in the neonatal ward. He's doing really well now. He's like, I can't even remember, like 4 or 5 or something. Anyways, but yeah, he's fine now. But I was just like, back then I couldn't empathize with her as much. I was like, this is fucked. It's sad. But like, just going through a small stint, I'm like, how the hell, like mentally, you're just so worried all the time. It's just crazy. So my heart goes out to all of you who have dealt with anything like small scale, big scale, whatever the case may be, like, oh my gosh, it's a rough ride. Especially like for a first time mum, like when you're just trying to navigate this new life and this new person that you've just created. Like, it's just crazy stuff. Anyway, being at home and being able to just cuddle him and be away from that space and just take him in and bond with him, best, just the best. That's basically my birth story, and I feel like I may have missed a lot of stuff out, and I'm happy to do a Q&A as my next baby related video. So if you've got any questions, leave them below, or keep an eye out on my Instagram. I'll do a question box in the few next coming days sometime. I need to finish my makeup. I've literally finished the birth story before my makeup, so we need to skip through this a little bit because otherwise this video is going to be way too long. He's totally fine. Porter is totally fine. He's beautiful. He's the best. I love him so much. The birth was not how I expected it to go, and to be honest, it still went really well. Like, I've made it sound so much worse than it is. Realistically, I'm thankful that he's healthy, he's fine, like his brain's fine, his body is fine. He was born far along enough that, you know, he's fully developed, he's great, he's so strong, he's brilliant, he's already like showing his own personality. He's only like, yeah, like I said, 6 weeks old. Like, he's just beautiful. My health, you know, I'm on some tablets for now. Hopefully I come off those soon. I get checked at the doctor soon. We all came out of it fine in the scheme of things. Like, we are so lucky. It was all just very dramatic to me, and it was a bit traumatizing to me. My experience compared to other people's was a breeze. Do you know what I mean? That's what gets me, and it makes me emotional. But also I feel like I have to remind myself that, you know, my birth is also valid. It didn't go how I planned it to. But like I said, we all came out of it okay. And I healed fine. The episiotomy thing, like, yeah, healed completely fine. It actually didn't hurt. I was given some painkillers, just like Panadol and Nurofen kind of vibes. I was given like a week's worth or something. I think I only took them for about 2 or 3 days, and I really, yeah, the pain wasn't too bad. And I think my bleeding stopped around 2.5 week mark. Like, it kind of started and stopped a couple of times at like 2 weeks. But yeah, I haven't bled in like 3 weeks now, I would say. I'm really going bold with my eye makeup, aren't I? I like it though. So yeah, shout out to anyone that watches my videos that works at the Palmerston North Hospital, especially that neonatal and maternity ward. I felt really well looked after. I had, you know, a really good experience under the circumstances. I know a couple of those people do follow me because they've like DM'd me and stuff on Instagram. It's so weird, like, how my defense mechanism is just to like go silent, honestly. I even do it when I'm overwhelmed now, like if I'm extra tired, maybe Porter is crying or I'm feeling overwhelmed. I've cried countless times. It's so normal, guys. You know, if you feel like so overwhelmed and you're just crying and you just are struggling and you're a new mum like me, and I'm sure anyone that's a mum that maybe has like a toddler now or a child or a teenager, like, you still remember it's so hard and overwhelming, and just remember that like all of your emotions are valid. Just let it out. I've cried so many times, and it doesn't mean that I'm not thankful or grateful to be where I am, and like, it doesn't mean that you don't love your baby or anything, but it's so like normal just to feel so overwhelmed. I still do sometimes. I started off crying like every day. Now I cry maybe like twice a week. Kind of just depends. Sometimes it might be twice a day. And I think a lot of the time it's just because you're so exhausted and so tired that like just everything just sets you off. You're not alone. And if you're like about to give birth and you've made the mistake of watching this video, I would do it again for him in a heartbeat. If I had to get him here safely, I would do this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you just would do anything to get them here safely. And it's not how I envisioned my birth to go. But like I said, in the scheme of things, it was fine. It's just weird. Like I say, like even now, like sometimes I just shut down and Hamish will talk to me and I'm just silent. I'm just like, does anyone else do that when they're like overwhelmed? I think that's the word. Like giving birth, I was overwhelmed. Sometimes I get overwhelmed and I just go mute. I'm like listening, but I don't respond. What a crazy time. And you know what? As time goes on, I will continue to forget about it, and I'll forget how freaky it was for me. That's the funny thing, right? People say, oh, you'll forget about it and then you'll want another baby because you'll just completely forget about what happened. I'm not at that point yet. Just kind of winging this out. If you made it this far through the video, congratulations. I feel like this is going to be my longest video of the year. I'm going to use a little bit of Stella. This is the Eye Halo, new at XO Beauty. Go check them out. Just on that inner corner. I'm just using a little and just trying to like blend it out really well. You really do not appreciate mothers until you are one, I feel. You know, I've had friends that have had babies, you know, and I'm like, wow, you're doing such a good job, but actually having one, I'm like, how are you so amazing? Like, you just have this whole new appreciation. You're like, how do you do that? Do you know what I mean? I look at people that are doing this alone, single mums, working mums. How? It blows my mind. You guys are all doing amazing. If no one's told you today, you're doing amazing. I'm gonna take another color just on my finger and kind of press that a little bit in the middle. And a little shimmer just to fill in that gap. I'm just gonna do a little black liner. I have more new lashes to share with you guys too, actually. So yeah, basically what I'd like to have people take away from this is just your birth story is valid no matter how it went. Don't, like, I need to tell myself this, it doesn't matter if people have an easier birth or a harder birth. Like, everyone's birth story is so different and you're allowed to feel however you want to feel about it. I think everyone's got different expectations on what birth will be like, and I actually had a very positive outlook on it. And I feel like I'm being way too hard on what has happened. I wish I was more positive about what happened, because at the end of the day, what happened was positive. Do you know what I mean? Like, everything that happened and he's safe and he's healthy. You know what I mean? I should be so thankful. So I need to remind myself that. And Hamish and I, needless to say, are just absolutely obsessed. Hamish is like an even better dad than I I knew he would be. But even more so than I expected. Like, you fall in love with your husband or boyfriend or whoever partner a million times more when you see them with your child. It's so weird. We've also had probably more arguments than I think we ever have in our whole relationship. Not arguments, just exhausted grumpiness. It's not even arguments, it's just us being like short with each other because we're so tired. But I think we both know not to take it seriously because we both understand, because we both do it to each other. But yeah, just being real with you guys, like, that's how it is. It's tiring. Waking up constantly all night, having your baby depend on you all day and all night. Like right now, luckily he's pretty settled today, Porter is. Sometimes like, I literally can't move for hours and hours and hours. He's just on me. He's unsettled. You know, he's getting older now, so he's starting to get to that point now where he's kind of like, oh shit, where am I? You know, I'm not in the womb anymore. I can't just swaddle him and, you know, he doesn't just sleep all the time. I feel like when they're fresh and, you know, with the jaundice and everything, he just slept all the time and he was so happy. He's still so happy. But, you know, now we have to work much harder to make sure that he feels really comfortable, settled. He gets more gassy. He's starting to learn to cry a little bit. Like, he cries when he wants his food. He knows what he wants, and when he wants it then and there. That seems to be the only time he really cries though. It's pretty much if he's got gas or if he wants a titty in his mouth. Let's just not judge my eyebrows either, because it's been that long since I've had them like groomed. I don't really know what's happening to this like tail end, but anyway, I've got some new lashes to share with you guys. I shared these like last year and literally never received so many, like I was wearing them, never received so many people DMing me asking me what lashes they were. So they were these ones, I'm pretty sure. Captivate, were they Captivate or Enchant? I can't even remember, but either way, I've got 3 to show you today. So we have the full volume lashes. These are designed to look like full like Russian volume like lash extensions. They are insane, but they're vegan, cruelty free. This set here is called Captivate. Stunning. Like, you won't actually be able to see how incredible these are through this video, I bet. Like, oh, they're so much better in real life. You can kind of see when I go side on, like, look at the curl, look at the thickness, the layers, like, they're just stunning. Boxes are so pretty as well. I'm so happy with how they kind of turned out. So that's those ones. We also have here Enchants, which maybe I'll wear today, or should I wear the real dramatic ones just for fun? They're so pretty. These ones are a little bit more cat eye shaped, crisscrossy. You can see that flare out at the outer corner. And then we have Adore. They're so gorgeous. Maybe I'll wear these ones today. Look at those layers. They're so thick and curly. Just incredible. I'm going to trim them down to size. I'll just show you a before and after of how they look. I'm using my really dicey, super old duo glue. I need to just replace it. I've got a like fresh one somewhere, but this one's like old and it takes forever to dry. It still works, it's just ugly. Okay, these are clearly still drying with the glue, but you can kind of see a before and after of my lashes. These are like, once again, the most dramatic ones, but they literally look like lash extensions. Like, oh, can you focus on my eye, please? Yeah, they look like lash extensions. They're so curly. Can I get a side profile? This is so awkward. Let me put the other one on and then you can kind of see how they look. This eye makeup reminds me of like 2015 Shan. Alright, there's the lashes. They're just so stunning. I feel like they'd look even better with, you know, a more natural eye makeup or just liner and lashes, a bit of bronzer on the eyes, you know, but here they are with dramatic AF eyeshadow. They're just stunning. I'm obsessed. I really like them. Okay, let's finish this video off. It's a bit long. Just going in with a like My Lips But Better nude, just to like define a soft nude lip. I was thinking of filming a favorites video. Let me know if you want to see it. Just some favorite beauty products that I've been loving since becoming a mum. And stuff I loved before, you know, being a mum, but also, yeah. That's my makeup of the day. I hope you like it. I'm going to finish with some Naked Sundays SPF 50. It's a nice glow. I'm not actually going to use any highlighter today. I'm just going to leave it like that. Thank you all for the constant love and support on my channel and just of me in general. I appreciate you guys so much, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. My hair is a mess. Look, I need my roots done too, but I just don't know how I'm gonna do that right now. My nails also look so growing out. Love you guys so much, and I will talk to you guys in my next video. Bye!